Do you ever stare down at your feet and wonder, what if these simply did not exist? Think for just a moment of why video games need to fully immerse you, and why even the smallest of details count. A detail as simple as your entire body. One of the most important aspects in games is immersion. Immersion is often what keeps me invested in a game long after the lasting appeal is worn off. I find that very few AAA titles, and even fewer indie titles, manage to immerse me. However, I have noticed that as of recently, more and more AAA titles are including full body awareness. Full body awareness is the ability to see parts of the protagonist through their point of view. This is already accomplished very well in modern third-person games, but too many first-person games lack this core piece of immersion. These days, it is almost expected to look down and see a pair of legs attached to your character. So much so that whenever I play older games set in first person, I quickly lose interest when I realize that I'm running around with no legs. It is impossible to walk without legs, so your imagination shuts down subconsciously. This is called breaking immersion. With this video, I hope to discuss the importance of full body awareness in video games and why it is just as necessary in first-person games as it is in third-person games, and hopefully nudge indie developers in the direction the industry needs to be heading in. In games, there are many subtle elements you may not notice at first, and what you do notice is most likely picked up subconsciously. But it's those subconscious details that make a great game, that even when on multiple playthroughs, you're still discovering tidbits you've never even noticed before. From time to time, I enjoy eating to the core of a fresh onion. Onions have many layers to chew through, but if you can make it to the deepest layer of an onion, you'll find extreme satisfaction. The onion's layers are an analogy to the layers you find in immersive games. Layers of any depth and quantity, especially in a story, contribute to subtleties that allow room for parallels, metaphors, allegories, or what have you, that can usually be unraveled through various subtle clues. For instance, while in first-person view, if you ever look down in Grand Theft Auto 5, you'll notice Franklin's, Trevor's, or Michael's legs. Through this perspective, you can really admire the stunning amount of subtle detail on their various leg wears. Looking closely at Michael's default outfit, you'll notice this beautiful reddish shade of brown. This could mean just about anything. But one important fact I gathered was that this very shade of brown, when broken down into HTML color codes, otherwise known as hex, is the exact same shade of brown programmed into the textures of the seagulls in the game Dash Camp for Nintendo's 1986 scrapped prototype console, the 2600. This may seem like a stretch or even like irrelevant information until you realize this common theme shared between many games with seagulls, these scavenger animals that are commonly seen eating out of dumpsters in congested cities, but more commonly at the beach. Beaches are also, maybe not so coincidentally, brown. Sand, when broken down to the finest molecules, can be seen as a packet of programming language. The very same programming language used by the now defunct Atari 2600 prototype. This is why the weather commonly seen on the beach causes a reddish-brown tan, the very same color found on Michael's default outfit in GTA 4. This type of immersion through subtlety is only possible through full-body awareness, and Hideo Kojima knows this better than anyone else, as we have seen in his most recent games. As we know, back on the PlayStation 1, Kojima broke brand new ground with Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear Solid.
Psycho Mantis.
He used the game in a way to make you question, is this even a game? Regarding the subtleties of immersion, Hideo Kojima tweeted,
"It's not about giving the gamers what they think they want. The titillation, horror, elation, they're parlor tricks. The gamers don't play for garish things such as that. They come back because the subtleties, the details."
Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro illustrated horror immersion very well in their collaboration on PT. Outside of PT being a cancelled Silent Hill game, Silent Hill Arcade and Silent Hill For the Room are the only Silent Hill games to use first-person perspective, but did not achieve the sense of full-body awareness. Resident Evil For the Room was the worst offender, as, sure, we get to see disembodied heads outside Harry's third-floor apartment window, but we never actually get to see our own heads. Something we've become so accustomed to in previous entries in the series, such as the genetically superior Silent Hill 3. In that game, Team Silent were so careful with showing any level of violence. No dead person's face is ever shown. Despite all that, I just can't get over how scary those games are. Yet Henry has no logs, like the log lady in Twin Peaks, another Silent Hill influence. The horror presented is not only their style of subtlety, but also because of the bill passed in Japan's legislature deeming blood violence and all manner of decapitation to be unfit for public consumption. The FDA may be to blame for suppressing this creativity and causing more and more games like Layers of Feel to work around the lack of full-body immersion by giving your character a limp. It's superficial, but it's the best the Bloober team could have done under these tight regulations. Somewhere from the nets, I dug up a comment on the subject made by the founder and good friend of Hideo Kojima, Thomas Bloober, that vehemently states, "In Edo period of Japan, violence in games is pretty much self-regulated. There was a turning point in the 1980s when a game called Bullfighter released. It featured a scene where a matador stabbed a bull and red blood squirted out. The day after it was released, they changed the blood to green. This is also apparent in the censored version of Resident Evil 7, with the decapitated head of the officer being replaced in the Japanese version by a photograph in the fridge." Then he continues, "There's more violence in games in the US. Things like Mortal Kombat where they rip out hearts and cut off heads. Japanese people just wouldn't come up with the ideas of blood splattering all over. Japanese focus more on the intricacies of the actions, the emotion." As you can clearly see, there are deep historical roots related to violence in video games. Regardless if you're headless or literally have no head, it doesn't make a single bit of difference in a virtual environment with peripheral perspectives. You need to be able to see you see just as much as being able to see you walk. Without seeing, there's no believing. Therefore, breaking the immersion. Legless characters are only okay in games if the characters are all literally without legs. We may see our one or two amputee, but in the realm of horror, this level of violence is so frowned down upon, we have never seen an amputee in a video game. Sure, I was disappointed in the first Outlast, but I sure wasn't disappointed by the inclusion of Erin's legs in the sequel. Whenever I first started the game, I would tape my thumbsticks down so I could watch her feet spin around in a circle. This was the most important thing to me in Last One Out. Earlier today, I was trying to balance walk a black line in the linoleum at the grocery store and saw the feet of a guy dressed just like Ethan Thomas. So, I was like, "Cool shoes," and he said, "Thanks?" But this did make me think. Without my feet, would I have been able to balance walk anything just to see Ethan Thomas's epic shoes? Surprisingly, yes. Gabe Newell, with his Half-Life and Portal series, combined platforming elements very well even with his lack of feet. I literally couldn't stand not having feet. For example, before my daily parkour, I was standing in line at a Burger King wondering what happened to the $5 footlong deal. I only really wanted a chili dog, so I walked out. Regardless, I got on with my routine. I was jumping over walls, spinning, and doing cool tricks over surfaces, and the thought suddenly realized to me that if I couldn't see where my hands were grabbing, I would probably fall 50 feet into a hay pile, just like in Assassin's Creed. Being able to coordinate with your eyes and body are essential. Imagine playing Dying Light and doing mad parkour over zombies, and not being able to have any sense of full body awareness. You, like me, would fall into that hay pile with no unsuspecting guards to assassinate, just like in Assassin's Creed. That brings me to my next point. In games like AC or Red Dead Redemption, despite their natural full-body immersion, you cannot swim. In this game, human beings do not float. This is not unlike being taken to a swimming pool with your father, having him look me right in the eye and say,
"Son, you're special.
One day, you'll be my daughter." You would have seen more full-body perversion in that moment than you would have ever seen in Red Dead Redemption. Imagine being in that swimming pool, going to the deep end, sinking. You would imagine you're in BioShock, floating inside a Vita chamber. You would hear the sounds of a Big Daddy stomping, but that sound was actually your daddy. disowning you as a daughter. In a platforming environment, Mirror's Edge is like the diamond in a snake pit. You will fail, suck the venom out, and fail again, just to suck that venom out yet again. It may taste bitter at first, but the experience is well worth it. You can see every body part of Faith, and many fans are pleased to be able to see her physically. If I was an athletic woman in a world out to kill me, I'd be happy just to know what it feels like to be a woman. I could learn a lot from being Faith. While not technically a platforming game, many motor vehicle games rarely implement dashcam as a default viewpoint, but the Dirt games do. I played Dirt 4 and was impressed by the dirt in your face, impressed by the dust in your face, impressed by the rain in your face. Stimulators like these are generally the most incursive because without the car, you'd be flying along the tracks in a sitting position. The very same goes for flight simulators and bird simulators. On the other hand, the 2017 reboot of Prey was originally going to be a rhythm-based game similar to that of Britney SingStar and guitar band funded by Harmonix Studios. While it is completely possible to play a musical instrument without being able to see your fingers, I can only hope that they would have involved fingers in this unreleased version of Prey that will never release. Many games rely heavily on immersing you through heads-up displays, helmets, blitz batters, group coupons, and dashcam. No matter how many ridiculous features you build into the game in the game's UI, nothing can truly immerse you enough to give you that extra sensory immersion. The game's Surgeon Simulator pulls this off quite well, even though your arms aren't attached to anything. But how is this possible? You're playing with disembodied hands and trying to complete ridiculous surgeries without the muscular control of your arms and shoulders. Well, you don't got a body, but at least you got hands. The best part of your body. Regardless of if these reckless objects are your hands or not, it feels like you're an extremely drunk degenerate. And in a world of surgeons, that's not unusual. Bossa Studios are trying to immerse you through your alcoholism. This to me is very important in a game called Surgeon Simulator. My uncle was a surgeon, and he was also a drunk. And if this game is anything close to reality, which it very much is, then I should be very concerned for his patients. There is nothing quite as impressive as doing a flying hammer spin and smashing open a guy's ribcage to drop a box of scalpels into his lung. I always get the highest score from that. It truly makes me believe that one day, just maybe, I could become a surgeon too. On the dark side, if I was one of my own patients, I would be very afraid for my life. But on the bright side, being unconscious and dying in my sleep is how I'd like to go. The game that falls flat when it comes to full body awakeness yet still manages to get inside of your head for that extra sensory sixth sense is Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. In this game, you can't see your feet, your hands, your face, nothing. It just doesn't exist. You're just a disembodied head camera floating around in Z-space. It's an atrocity, but the game makes up for this by making you walk really, really slow just to pick up on the sad memories of everyone before they left and altered their genetic structures to become splicers in the underwater metropolis Rapture. For instance, I enjoy looking into the sun for long periods of time, seeking the answer to life, and also the answer to how to make video games better. But when my eyes come to, if they come to, I'll have a blinding circle spot that won't go away. This is very symbolic to how I see most modern games today. As far as this game goes, I notice that there are shadows all around me. But where is my shadow? I can only conclude that I do not exist in this game. And in a way that feels very immersive to me as I do not exist outside of my home either. What baffles me is, if I don't have a body, then how am I able to hide in the hanging sheets without a body? I can't run, I can't jump, no body! I might as well be nobody. Like some nobody office worker pacing around to finish photocopying documents after already faxing 43 of them. There's absolutely no interaction universally accepted as fun within this game, all thanks to the tea-sipping Chinese room. Speaking of tea, if you have no body, then how are you supposed to do a glorious teabag after a victorious win in one of your favorite first-person shooters? Teabagging is the art of crouching over the corpse of a man you just obliterated and simulating the act of making him into your, to put it bluntly, bitch. In a game, there is no shame nor ridicule because all your friends are too busy shaming your mother to notice the suggestive crouching over a fallen player. If you have no body, then how can anyone truly appreciate the effort you put in to perfectly align your character with a corpse and crouch over its face? That takes time. Sure, this might enrage some players on the receiving end and excite others, but in a virtual reality, someone just crouched over you a few times and ran off into the sunset, never to be seen again. On the other hand, if you do have a body, then does this mean there is something under the pants of your army man, or is he like a Ken doll? Games need this sort of Immersion. Some say VR headsets are the future of full-body immersion, and you know what? Why let the game come to me for immersion when I can immerse myself inside of it? Literally. You strap a giant pair of oversized goggles on your head, which blocks out the physical world from any distractions and creates a whole new world to surround you in. Last time I used this, I couldn't hear my child in the bath. Fortunately, I had another. We named her Denzel, after my unfortunate first son. Many claim that VR is the path to the future, but already 3D movies are being phased out. Personally, I was sick of blood tears anyhow. While some people become superheroes while on PCP, others just lose their goddamn minds when on VR. Just like how some people think it's cool to wear 3D glasses stolen from a cinema because stealing Ray-Bans is no longer cool to do. When you are immersed in a game's virtual reality, a game lacking a body other than your own, a body still present in your physical reality, you realize that you are still a fat lazy slob and watching TV is easier than changing yourself, so you stick with it. We don't need any more eyesores like the Virtual Boy. After using that machine, I saw red. Red alert. Code red. Reddit. It gave me severe OCD, and whenever I see anything with the word red in it, I panic. From my experiences, anything that starts with the word virtual is also a bad sign. It's a good thing I haven't seen any red VR headsets. It might set my PTSD off. Random fun fact, virtual reality has failed more times than it's been attempted. This leads me to believe that VR is going backwards into the 80s instead of going forwards into the 2080s. The path of truly moving forward involves more immersive games. Hideo Kojima knows this better than everyone else.
Enjoy.
I think the future of full-body immersion will be pioneered by Hideo Kojima. I would like to see more developers take full-body awareness seriously and run with it. And there's no Asian that takes full-brody awareness more seriously than Hideo Kojima. Kojima's baby, PT, was a gift to the world. The world reciprocated and became overpopulated. PT, spelled backwards, is the acronym for what? Third person. But it's not in third person, it's in first person. Kojima is trying to tell us that fourth-person games is the path to full-body enlightenment. So many of his games are breaking down the fourth wall, but that's not the only wall he plans to break down. He plans to crash the roof, break down all the walls, and kidnap your child, so that it can live on as a battery for the existence of the human race. Koji-kun wants to reinvent the way we immerse ourselves in video games through genomes. He wants to make sure every genetically altered fan has something as unimportant as inverted bodysuits. An avatar with a presence is one of the most crucial and overlooked concepts in modern video games, which is why, most of the time, third-person games are better when it comes to really immersing you with fur bodysuits. Through these financial supporters on Patreon, I was able to illustrate the importance of full body awareness.
Legendary champions. Rain, Michael, Heroic champion. Tyler Hunter, Jack Bristow, Skelton, Elite champion. Jasper Bomber, Giltron Jack Carson, Born to Die 3, Nazaire H, Miami Ink Vampire, Jacob San Pietro.